What's going on, guys? It's PokePond back for another video for you. Today we're going to have a look at some crazy new things coming out, lots of things going on in the hobby. We're going to do a monster analysis of all of the sealed product investing over the Sword and Shield block. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe down below to never miss an opportunity. Let's get into it. So first thing we're going to talk about today is some brand new news. Essentially is Pokemon are going to be releasing a new mobile app called Pokemon Pocket, and this was unveiled at the sort of Worlds event that's just happened recently, and it's going to be a mobile game that's going to be based around sort of digital collecting, opening packs digitally, and it's going to be like a simplified version of battling. We've got a couple of screenshots here, so it's going to look something like this. Now, I know it's not directly related to sort of normally what we talk about on the channel with Pokemon investing and Pokemon sealed products, etc. But you need to understand that Pokemon as a whole, as a franchise, when they do things like this, it brings a lot more people into the hobby, and that's always a really positive thing for whatever products are out at the time. This is going to bring so many more people into the hobby and then start collecting the physical cards as well. They're going to get into this, and it just removes barriers between people getting into Pokemon. So I think it's going to be really good. It's going to be a much more simplified version of the TCG. You're going to have sort of 3 cards that battle each other. I don't even think you're going to have energy to attach either. It's going to be much simpler than that. I think it's going to work more a bit like Hearthstone and some other traditional TCG games where you just have like a set amount of energy each turn. So it's just going to be like a really simple version. One of the main reasons why I'm highlighting this to you guys is they're going to release digital only sets for this mobile game, which are going to be, the first set is going to be called Genetic Apex. So you can see this here. I just think it's interesting and we need to keep an eye on it. So yes, it has nothing to do with the physical TCG and the packs, but we know what happened with Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go was insane. It brought so many people into the hobby. This is not that, okay? However, Pokemon Go ended up then getting their cards printed into physical copies with the Pokemon Go set. Could we see this happening with this Genetic Apex set in the future? Worth keeping an eye on, worth being aware of what's going on in the wider hobby as a whole. Right, now let's start talking about sealed, etc. What sets are coming out, physical cards. So, Scarlet and Violet Shrouded Fable. We've been talking about this the last couple of weeks, that there were some supply issues both in the US and the EU around the Elite Trainer boxes, which meant that they were short printed in a lot of areas. I know here in the UK some people got their allocations of Elite Trainer boxes, some people didn't, so there wasn't a huge amount of them available. Now the booster bundles, which is, because it's a holiday set, there's no big booster boxes, there's no 36 pack booster boxes, so the most efficient way to buy these packs was through the Elite Trainer boxes. Now with the Elite Trainer boxes not being available that much, and still not available that much, some people are still waiting for their pre-orders on Elite Trainer boxes. I've heard of a few people in the US that are still waiting for them. It's kind of even more important that these booster bundles, when they come out, they basically have a staggered release. So the main wave of products comes out, and then the booster bundles are a much more efficient way of pack to cost ratio of collecting a specialty set. They release a little bit later, so they're coming out on the 6th of September, it looks like. I've just gone onto a third-party retailer's website just because they're usually pretty good with their release dates. And Pokemon Center can be a bit vague on their website. They'll just say like mid-September or like early September. It's like, no, I want the date. I want the date that the that they're going to ship to you, to the customer. So it looks like 6th of September at the moment, unless these get delayed as well. I haven't heard anything, but you never know. I don't know what the issues were around the Elite Trainer box. Maybe it was just that they were struggling to get a few specific products that go into it. That's the problem with Elite Trainer boxes. There's so many different little bits of products, the dice, the sleeves, and stuff like that, and they're all made in different countries as well. So if there's one problem with like one specific item, it can delay the whole product. Whereas the sort of booster bundles and the bigger booster boxes generally don't get delayed as much because they're easier to print. They're literally just the booster packs and that's it in the packaging. With these booster bundles, it's literally just cardboard, a little bit of cling film around it, and it's just your 6 booster packs on the inside. So these are, like I said, a really cost efficient way of getting into the set. These come out on the 6th, so 3 weeks ago yesterday. So basically we're 3 weeks away from getting these booster bundles. I don't think Shrouded Fable, in my opinion, is an amazing set. However, it could be good for an investment long term. The reason why I'm saying that is because sometimes with sets that aren't super desirable off the bat, they do quite well because not many people put them away. So when they go out of the print window, there's just not much of it available. I mean, you can look at some previous sets like Rebel Clash, Guardians Rising, a few sets like that. They have done well. It doesn't apply to every single set, but it might be a play worth making. I might pick up a few of these on the 6th. Plus, people are going to be blindsided as well because literally just on the 13th, so those booster bundles come out on the 6th of September. On the 13th, so 1 week later, we get a full mainline set release. We get Stellar Crown, and a lot of people are going to be looking at that and not be looking at these Shrouded Fable booster bundles. They'll just want to move on and get into the new big set. This set has some crazy pulls. They're going down a new direction with the whole Terra Pokemon. There's some Terra full arts. We've had a good look at that on the channel. I'm not going to dive into that now. But if you want to look at the set lists, they're all up online at the moment for Stellar Crown. It's going to be quite a hype set. I think it's going to do a lot better than people expect it to. It was the same with Twilight Masquerade. People thought it was a dead set. People were like, oh, we don't want to collect these masks. It's a rubbish set. All of Scarlet and Violet block is rubbish, and then look what happened. The Greninja started skyrocketing in price. People couldn't get enough of the Twilight Masquerade, and it's really actually quite hard to get your hands on Twilight Masquerade for retail price now, especially if you're buying like loose packs. You could probably get some booster boxes here and there, but I mean, you're certainly not picking up cases of it for below retail anymore, unless you got some hookups, but I mean from like third-party retailers, etc. Anyway, let's move on. Pokemon Center. Let's have a look at what's in stock. So, Pokemon Center UK at the moment, we still got Fusion Strike. How have you guys not bought up all of these Fusion Strike booster boxes? To get it for retail is absolutely bananas. All of the US viewers every single week just wish that they could buy it for this price. Honestly, they had it go out of stock in the US and it just skyrocketed. It just went to like $180, $190. It's ludicrous we can pick this up for retail now. I can't believe it's still there. I say every week, how much longer is it going to last? Every week I'm shocked that it's still there. This is easily one of the best buys you can buy at the moment. You're picking up a really good set with good chasers, and it's old as well. It's old Sword and Shield. It's the good era. It's the GOAT era. It's the one everyone wants. Like, it's crazy, guys. Like, we'll have a look at the US charts in a second and you'll see what happens when it goes out of stock. Anyway, sorry, let's go back. Fusion Strike, Brilliant Stars is still available. We talked on the channel about the UK is getting a little bit of a reprint of Brilliant Stars and Silver Tempest. We're not seeing Silver Tempest back in stock on Pokemon Center at the moment, which is interesting. I wonder if distributors are just sending it to... Pokemon Center is just sending the odd few that it's going to have off to distributors, and then it's going to end up with third parties. I don't know. We're going to keep an eye on it though, but I would expect Brilliant Stars and Silver Tempest to be around for a little bit longer here in the UK. And then apart from that, we've only got Astral Radiance out of the Sword and Shield block. I mean, we got Battle Styles, but we're not going to talk about Battle Styles. Battle Styles is going to be around forever. So yeah, Astral Radiance is a really good buy as well. People sleep on Astral Radiance quite a lot. I think people sort of forget about it. I think it's quite a good play, but I would personally put my money into Fusion Strike, and then once these two start popping off, once these two go out of stock and start going to 180, 190, 200 a box, which I do think they will before Christmas this year, then the next will be Brilliant Stars and Silver Tempest, and people will start FOMOing into them, and I think you'll start to see them creep up as well. Let's have a look at some of the cheaper products then. You know, maybe you want some Fusion Strike in your collection, but you don't have the money to buy a whole booster box. These sleeved booster packs are pretty decent. £4. They're encased in cardboard as well. I like these because you can stack them up. They're easy to store. They're easy to ship out as well. You can just send them in like a bubble mailer, nice and easy, or you can bundle them into like you could do like an art set of 4 of them, or you can do 8 or something, put them into a little shoebox or something, ship them out nice and easy. They're not really going to deteriorate as long as you've got them in like a storage box and you maintain the moisture levels. Just chuck some, I get like a big plastic, almost like Tupperware, big giant thing, and I put silica gel packs. You can buy them really cheap on eBay, chuck them in there. That's going to keep all the moisture out of that box, and you can just leave it, sit on it for a couple of years, and I think you'll do well out of it. You can get most of these sets here in the UK. Last week I actually pointed out in the US you could buy these Fusion Strike ones, and then after my video went live about 2-3 hours later they were out of stock. So I think some of my US viewers picked them up. Unfortunately, some of my viewers commented days later after the video came up, 2 days later, 3 days later, 4 days later, like, what are you talking about? Fusion Strike isn't in stock in the US. Well, I'm sorry, you can't sleep on it. Like, if I make a crazy recommendation like that, people will just buy it out straight away, okay? It's not going to last. This is why you subscribe to the channel, because I will make recommendations to you guys when I see crazy plays, and they will just go. If it's a super crazy play, then it will go. In the past, I've pointed out in the UK, we had these ones, Lost Origin, being sold by a third-party retailer for £2 each. They were having some crazy fire sale. Again, made a video. Within half an hour, 40 minutes of the video going up, you guys bought them all out. It's crazy. Subscribe to never miss an opportunity. We've had it with countless sets. Chilling Reign, we were getting booster boxes for retail. We had like a random reprint that wasn't announced. Again, you guys just bought it out super quick. A week later, they were on eBay for 30-40% more. So, you know, I do notice these plays. That is what I try and do on this channel. I don't gobble them all up for myself. I let you guys know. You guys can have it. I want us all to get rich together. That's the plan. Anyway, let's have a look at the US then, because the US is a completely different market, but it's important for us to compare UK and US. So if you're a US viewer, you'll get something out of my videos, because analysing the UK market can help to identify trends that are coming your way. We all have like different stock of different things, and as a UK viewer as well, like I pay attention to what's going on in the American markets as well. We can learn from each other. I've heard other Pokemon investment YouTubers saying it's ridiculous. You know, if you're a US customer, don't look at what's going on in the UK or the EU. They're completely different markets. Yes, they're different markets. We've got different supply and demand, but we all are looking at the same cards at the end of the day. Okay, like what is popular over here is probably going to be popular over there as well. Okay, so it does help to at least be educated on what's going on in different markets. Sorry, I just skipped over what's going on in the US. Okay, US, Silver Tempest, still in stock. People are sleeping on Silver Tempest, I'm telling you guys. What happened with Brilliant Stars? Brilliant Stars in the US went out of stock, and then it just suddenly jumped like $50 or whatever. Yeah, it went from like, what, like 140, 150, it was below retail, and then it jumped to like 190, and now it's consolidated a little bit down. But I do think Silver Tempest is going to have that same run up in the US as well. I think people are sleeping on it. If I was in the US personally, I'd either be buying into ultra modern like Twilight Masquerade, etc., and getting it for well below retail and just sitting on it for a couple of years, or I'd be buying into stuff like Silver Tempest, because Silver Tempest for $143 is really good buy. I think people are sleeping on it. The Lugia alt art is an amazing card. I think it's one of my top 5 cards from all of Sword and Shield alt arts. and although it has seen a little bit of a dip in price recently, that's healthy. You know, like alt arts went crazy for a little while, and whenever anything goes crazy and like shoots up in price, like you need a consolidation period. You need it to drop back down a little bit and stabilize. The reason why these things happen, okay, is because when the price starts shooting up, and this goes for any investment, okay, so it's worth paying attention. Like when something shoots up in price, you get loads of people that aren't interested in the product at all. You just get loads of people that see something going up and buy into it, but they don't actually want it. They're just trying to turn it for a quick bit of profit, okay? And those people, as soon as they get the sentiment that it's starting to drop in value, all of those people sell off, okay? So say, for example, you have a 50% rise on something. Okay, I would say about half of that 50% rise is people that are just trying to flip it and don't actually care about the product. Then as soon as it starts to drop in price, all of those bad actors start dumping it. And that's when you see it come back down, and then you see a price consolidation and you see it flatline. And it always flatlines above what it originally was before the hype. Okay, so even though you're seeing the price drops across alt arts and everything, they are still generally, as far as I'm aware, and don't quote me on this because I'm not an expert on singles, my speciality is in sealed, but from what I've noticed, like they are still generally higher than they were before the crazy alt art hype. They're just sort of, if you take an average of the graph, right, they went crazy, they consolidated back down. It just means the average just sort of flattened out a little bit, which is what you want. But honestly, bit of a tangent there. Silver Tempest, I think people are sleeping on it. I think it's a really good set. There's a lot of it around at the moment. You can still pick it up for crazy deals. I think you'll do well on it long term. Let's start talking about the big boys then. Okay, Evolving Skies. We can't have a Sword and Shield price analysis video on Sealed without talking about the GOAT. Everyone knows Evolving Skies is the hot thing on the market. It has been basically since it came out on release. I was actually fortunate enough to queue up on release of Evolving Skies. I was there on release day early at my local card shop. That card shop isn't even there anymore, it's gone out of business. But I was there early, third in queue, hours before it opened. I was ready, got in there, bought my pre-release bundles from them. Like, good times. Evolving Skies is the GOAT. I've known it since before it even came out. And we always talk about it on the channel. Right, I just want to talk about TCG Player, and I don't like the fact that it doesn't show you like the last 3 sales anymore. We also need to talk about this. So I started looking at Evolving Skies price here, and you see like last week, average price 668, okay? And now average price 688. So $20 rise, okay? But it's not really true, because it's taking averages. Like if you look at these, right, 2 sold for 169, but it's actually just the Japanese EV Hero set. That's not even the same set, so that's affecting the average price. 99 Korean sealed booster box. Like, I'm sorry, TCG Player, you need to get your act together with this. Like, you're just skewing all the data, and your graphs are just becoming inaccurate because you've got all this junk in there now. So let's look at last sales. I don't often look at like US eBay for like last sales, obviously, because I'm in the UK market. Usually TCG Player gives you a good idea of what's going on, but for Evolving Skies it's just way off. So let's have a look at what they're actually selling for in the US. Look at this, $630. That is cheap. That is really cheap compared to what it has been recently. Evolving Skies, I remember it going for around about the $700 mark not that long ago. So again, a little bit of price consolidation. Look at this, 600. Brand new listing, sold yesterday. That's crazy. 600 for a sealed Evolving Skies is pretty cheap. There you go, 640. So yeah, TCG Player is a bit off. It looks like they're going for a little bit cheaper actually than what TCG Player is going for. But again, pretty stable price for in the US. I don't think you'd do bad if you bought into Evolving Skies for 600. It's just a lot of money to put down. Like, would you rather have one Evolving Skies booster box now, or would you rather have like a sealed case of Twilight Masquerade? That's a decision you guys have got to make. Let's have a look at last sold here in the UK then. So last sold in the UK, Again, a little bit cheaper. Look, 575 best offer accepted. Over the last few weeks, it's been around about the $580 to $600 mark. Here's one selling for $550. Little bit of a discount, but in the grand scheme of things, if you zoom out, it's really pretty stable. Look, 610, there you go, over the 600 mark, 610 as well with postage, so 622. I would say if you had to average things out without me actually calculating it out, I would say that Evolving Skies over the last month or so has probably had about a 2 to 3% swing in either direction. Not a gain, not a loss. It's been up and down a little bit. But if you zoom out, it's just pretty stable. UK, round about 600 a box you're looking to buy it for, minty fresh. US, probably a little bit cheaper than that. Probably around about $580 is the mark at the moment. I've been telling you guys, don't sleep on these Elite Trainer boxes. They're going up in price. I told you they're going up in price. People are getting priced out of the main booster box, so they're buying these. And these look so much better on display than the booster box as well. I personally prefer this one, this style. You've got the two styles. I personally like this one, the pink, blue, purple sort of one. Yeah, cheapest now on eBay, $130. Now, I was calling this out a couple of weeks ago that they were like, what, $110? You can pick them up for $110 all day long. Now they're like $130 cheapest. Let's have a look at last solds. They're selling, even in the off variant that I don't like, $130. I was fortunate enough to pick these up on release. I only picked up two, unfortunately, though, one of each colour for £40. I wish I'd have bought more of them. But hey, you know, you live and learn. I'm just happy I got some, and they'll stay in my collection because I love the look of them. I'm not going to sell them. Okay, let's have a look at Silver Tempest, since we were talking so much about Silver Tempest. Actually, the last Sword and Shield in stock in the US right now, which is why you're still seeing it going for retail. Basically, flatline retail here in the US. UK, like I said, I'm getting a little mini reprint of it, so there's going to be quite a bit of it around at the moment. Cheapest on eBay is $150 all in. You can pick it up for retail in a lot of places. So it is sold out on Pokemon Center at the moment, I believe. Let's have a look, actually, before I quote you on that. No, it's not. It's Brilliant Stars that's sold out. So you can pick it up for 100. Oh, sorry, that's dollars. That's US. My bad. Yeah, it is sold out in the UK at the moment, but you can pick them up from third-party retailers or eBay for around about this retail mark of around about $140, $150. I do expect some more stock to be floating around a little bit in the UK, probably hitting shelves pretty soon. I don't think it's going to be a huge reprint, but it's something to be aware of. I don't think you can really go wrong picking these up for around about $150 mark. I think they'll do well long term, but I think it's going to take till about Christmas time for it to start creeping up in price. Okay, let's have a look at last solds then. Last solds for decent ones, 145 in the UK, best offer accepted, again 140. So on eBay you can pick them up for a little bit below retail, and you can see photos of it. This is a seller that I see quite a lot on eBay, so shout outs to this guy. Obviously providing good deals, and he is quite often the lowest price around. Let's have a look at the main chase from Silver Tempest then. This is why I think Silver Tempest is going to do well long term. Lugia is one of the top 5 cards in Sword and Shield. I think a lot of people will agree with me on that. And I'm a big fan of these moody cards as well, like this sort of more sort of dark vibe on the cards. And I think it's one of those cards that is very memorable from the Sword and Shield alt art era. And there's a lot to be said for cards like that. The ones that people remember and are nostalgic about tend to do well long term. In the US, on near mint for raw copies, you're looking at pretty much $125, $130, $120, around about that mark for raw at the moment. Like I said, it's had a bit of a decrease recently. The hype around alt arts has fizzled out a bit, but you know, as a sealed investor, I would always say to you guys, you know, like, be ready to be in it for the long haul. If you're buying Silver Tempest now, a sealed booster box, you need to be prepared to hang on to it for at least 2 years, maybe 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. The longer you can do it, the better you'll do from it. But just keep an eye on the channel. You know, I'll keep you up to date on prices. If it suddenly goes out of stock everywhere and skyrockets up to 250, 300 a box, maybe that's what you're comfortable selling it at. You know, you don't necessarily have to keep an eye on eBay. Just tune into the channel every once in a while and you'll see my reporting on it. If there's any kind of crazy price movements across any sealed, I'm talking Sword and Shield, Sun and Moon, even Ultra Modern. I'm keeping an eye on Ultra Modern. I'm just not including it in these videos because there's not much price movement at the moment. It's still available for retail almost everywhere, apart from 151. 151's a bit of a strange one, but we do talk about it on the channel a little bit because even though it's Ultra Modern, it has seen some price rises. Anyway, back to the Lugia. I don't make recommendations on investing in the singles or the slabs at all. I just think that it's important for you guys to realize when you're buying sealed products, this is what's in the boxes, this is what the chase card is, and we need to keep an eye on prices because it does help influence the price of sealed. So PSA 9 price. The important thing to realize with PSA 9 slabs in particular is that generally they should be sold for around about raw price. So if a PSA 9 is going for 170 in the UK, that's about what the raw should be. Like a real good condition raw. And near mint, you know, near mint is like, is a grey area, do you know what I mean? There's a lot of scale. You can get some real, you know, messed up near mint cards and you can get some really minty near mint cards. But generally, like a good condition raw one should be about the price of a PSA 9, and then a PSA 10 should be a premium on top. So around about the 170 mark, people are asking for a PSA 9 at the moment, and for a PSA 10 you're looking around about 130, 140 pound more than that, 310, 305 for the PSA 10. Again, I think these will go up quite a bit over the next couple of years. I think that especially when you look at some of the other alt arts in the Sword and Shield era like the Giratina is like a lot more expensive, and I think, I don't know, me personally, I like the Lugia more, but that's just me. Anyway, moving on. We could talk about singles and slabs all day, but we really don't know what we're talking about. So let's move on to something that we do know a lot about. Let's talk about Fusion Strike. So like I said, Fusion Strike, you can pick it up in the UK at the moment for retail. That's absolutely crazy. That is the best deal around by an absolute country mile. Let's have a look at the US then. US at the moment, let's look at last sales on TCG Player. 230, 234, $230, $235. Seems like everyone's around about the 230 mark. You might look at this chart and be like, oh my god, it's so unstable, it's up and down and up and down. It's really not. Let's just zoom out. Look, it's just flatlined. It's just consolidation. You're just having a 4 to 5% swing either way as people are buying, selling. Some people are dumping, some people are buying. It's just what happens with supply and demand. It goes up and down a little bit. This is really stable for Fusion Strike because it's such a fire set, okay? For those of you who are new to the channel, I'll just explain what happened. Basically, it was in stock for the longest amount of time for retail here in the US. It went out of stock, and then we saw a big price jump to around about the $230, $240 mark, and it's just stayed there. I think that that's the basement price in the US for Fusion Strike now. I don't think you're ever going to get booster boxes any cheaper than that. This is your opportunity to buy in now. At this price point, like I said, I don't think it's ever going to get any cheaper. I don't think it's ever going to get reprinted Fusion Strike either. I'd be very surprised if it dropped in price from now onwards, but you never know. It is still a risk. People, you need to be aware that just because of past performance and generally good sets of sealed booster boxes will all go up in price over time. Doesn't mean it's going to happen in the future. At the end of the day, we've got a tangible asset, but it is just cardboard at the end of the day. Some crazy world events could happen. You know, who knows what might happen, and it might all go to zero. That's just something you need to be aware of. this is what is classed as a speculative investment. Okay, like it's not got like an intrinsic value behind it, essentially. Like it could just go to zero if the entire Pokemon hobby decides that zero is the price and people want to sell it and no one wants to buy it. It's supply and demand driven. It's a supply and demand driven market. Personally, I think unless something absolutely crazy happens in the world, Fusion Strike's never going to get any cheaper, and it's just going to slowly start creeping up over time. Like I said, you can buy this for retail in the UK at the moment. You're still at this part of the graph here in the UK. As soon as it goes out of stock in the UK, I do think we're going to see the same thing that happened in the US market. You're going to see a massive push up to the £200 range. That's why I pick it as my best buy from the UK right now. Cheapest you can pick it up on eBay at the moment is £145. That's quite a good deal. That is basically retail price. Or you can get it from Pokemon Center for £146. Okay, they're actually selling for more than that. They're selling for 160. I don't know who's paying for 160 when you can buy it for 146 from Pokemon Center, or you can buy it for 145 from eBay. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is too much to pay 160 when you can pick it up for retail. But very quickly, you know, as soon as those start drying up and it goes out of stock on Pokemon Center and it starts drying up out of stock, you know, these cheaper ones on eBay, they'll all get bought out. These 145s, these 150s, these 160s. Let's just have a look. Look, there's one for 145. Then it jumps to 160. You know, as soon as you can't get these elsewhere in the Pokemon Center, this will be the new price. And then how many of these 160s need to get bought out? 1, 2, 3. All right, let's go into another page. 4, 5, 6, 7 at 160, and then we jump another £5. Then we're at 165. And then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're at 170. Do you know what I mean? 6 booster boxes selling out when you can't get it anywhere else. They'll go like that, you know, like almost instantly, and then all of a sudden we're at 180, 190, 200. Honestly, I think at Christmas this is easily going to be 200 plus a box, but it all just depends on when it goes out of stock on Pokemon Center UK. If it goes out of stock next week, I think it will start jumping straight away. If it takes until November, October time for it to go out of stock, then it'll take until then, until it starts creeping up in price. But it's easily one of the best buys at the moment, in my opinion. Let's talk about Brilliant Stars then. Another set that I think is just slept on. In the US, we had the exact same thing happen. Okay, you could buy it for, let's go into the charts here. You could buy it for retail around here. When out of stock, like I said, people FOMO into it, and you also get in the bad actors that are just trying to flip it for a profit. And it quickly climbed up to, at its peak, $194. I actually did see some sell for more than more than $200 on eBay. And then and then a little bit of consolidation, and things come back to reality a little bit, and then we have an agreed price, a nice flat line around about the $180 mark. I do think the same will happen again with the UK once we go out of stock and we're completely out of reprint window. It's going to take a little while, a few more months for that to happen, but I do think we're going to see the same thing. Probably a jump up to around about the £190, £200 mark, and then a little bit of a consolidation back down to around about the 180 mark around Christmas. I would imagine cheapest you can pick it up, again, UK, eBay, 145. That is just retail price, and yeah, I think people are sleeping on it. It's a good set. You've got the Charizards, obviously. I think this is one of the most undervalued alt arts from Sword and Shield era. It's one of my favourite cards. I think this and the Lugia are my two favourites. Obviously, yeah, we can talk about the Moonbreon from Evolving Skies all day long. That is a nice card, but for how good the card is to the value, I just think that people are really sleeping on Charizard V, and they are also really sleeping on Brilliant Stars and Silver Tempest. Let's have a look at the price then. Near mint in the US, let's have a look at some last sales on TCG Player. Basically around about the $130 mark for raw near mint. Let's have a look at UK eBay then. PSA 10. Look at this. PSA 10 selling for £200 here. And then we've got the PSA 9 for half the price, 105. So around about £100 for a raw copy. I would imagine probably a little bit cheaper. You could probably pick one up for around about £85, £90 is probably a good price, and I think that's a steal. Again, I don't recommend you buy into singles or slabs. Don't take my advice on that. Do your own research into it. I'm not an expert on singles and slabs. It's definitely like an area of the TCG hobby that I've been getting more involved with over the last sort of 6-7 months, and learning more about, but I'm by no means an expert in it. I'm purely looking at these prices as a standpoint from the sealed booster box. Okay, I can tell you that you're never going to get Brilliant Stars much cheaper than this. 145 is the basement price, because you can see in the US what happened when it went out of stock. It went up to, you know, it's sat now at what, 180 in the US, $180. Once these things go out of stock, people start FOMOing into them and they start buying into them and driving the price up. Okay, let's move on. Lost Origin. Since we were talking about alt arts, Lost Origin is one of those crazy sets where it's actually like been out of stock for a good amount of time in the US and the UK, so it's quite a good set to sort of like compare similarities in our two markets. Let's have a look then. It's the only one where it seems to have had like a significant amount of growth over just the last 7-day period since I've made a video. So last week it was around about the 210 mark, and then let's have a look at last sales. Around about 215, 219, one selling for 230 there. So I mean, if you take an average of all of those, you're probably looking at around about 220, so about a $10 rise. And $10, you think, oh, that doesn't sound like much, but $10 in 7 days is 5% of the value of the booster box. A 5% rise in 7 days is insane when you look at like any other investment around the world, unless it's like really speculative like crypto or whatever. But if you look at like safe investments, like I know here in the UK, like to get like interest on your savings in a bank, you're doing well if you get like 5% over the whole year, let alone like a 5% rise on Lost Origin in 7 days. And I'm sorry, like Pokemon goes in like waves of like popularity of people buying like product and sealed product especially, and we're at one of those stages where we're not at the lowest level of like popularity, but we're certainly like not in a boom either. We're at a kind of like in between limbo stage where we're waiting for Pokemon to do the next big thing, and then it'll draw everyone back in. Obviously we had the big boom around COVID time, and we had boom around Pokemon Go. Like I'm telling you, Pokemon, like they're always cooking up something. They'll be cooking up something fire. We've got the new game coming out at the end of the year as well for Switch, etc. We've got Pokemon ZA or ZA. I like calling it ZA. Pokemon ZA sounds cool. That's going to do well. I don't think that's going to start off a massive fad, but it's going to help contribute and help build momentum. All of these things, Pokemon Pocket coming out as well, they just start to build up. The popularity starts coming back, and also as well, you need to remember that although we're looking at like older sets now of Sword and Shield, etc., like the ultra modern stuff in Scarlet and Violet is really starting to hot up. Like we're getting to the stage now where we're getting into sort of like the second half of the block of Scarlet and Violet, and historically that's where all the big sets come. The later half of Sun and Moon was absolutely fire. You had all the tag team cards and tag team card sets coming in, and you know what the prices of those are doing at the moment. Some of those have skyrocketed. They're some of my favourite cards in the hobby. And then the second half of Sword and Shield, obviously you've got sets like this. You had your Evolving Skies, Lost Origin, Fusion Strike. You saw alt arts coming into that. I'm looking forward to what Scarlet and Violet's going to be like in their later half. And if that really starts popping off, that gets more people back into collecting in the hobby, and then they start looking back at Sword and Shield as well, and more money starts flowing into Sword and Shield as well. So something to be aware of. But yeah, around about 5% gain on Lost Origin over the last week in the US. Cheapest you can get in the UK at the moment is $205. It's so expensive here in the UK at the moment. I'd be cautious at buying in at $205. The Giratina is the most expensive alt art behind the Moonbryon from Evolving Skies, as far as I'm aware. Don't quote me on that one, but I think that is the case, and that does help influence the seal pack price. Because alt art prices are falling a little bit, that could influence Lost Origin prices. It might not. You have to remember as well that where Silver Tempest and Brilliant Stars got a little bit of a shock reprint coming in the UK, it's possible they could do some Lost Origin as well. If you'd have asked me a few weeks ago, would they reprint Lost Origin ever again, I'd say no way they're going to do it. But after they announced that, or they didn't announce, after I got the inside info that there's a little bit more stock of Silver Tempest and Brilliant Stars coming about, it's a little bit more likely that we'll get a little bit more Lost Origin. It's still a very slim chance, but just be cautious at buying in at 205. Like, if you were to buy in at 205, be prepared to sit on it for a couple of years, is all I'm saying. Let's have a look at last sales then. Last sales in the UK, 193, 190. I think if you can pick one up and snipe one for like around about 170 on an auction, 170, 180, I think that you won't do bad from that. I'm not saying that it will ever get cheaper than 190. I'm just saying be cautious with that. Me personally, I'd rather just buy a Fusion Strike booster box for around about the 140, 150 pound range, or just buy into like Silver Tempest or Brilliant Stars, or even some ultra modern like some Twilight Masquerade, and just sit on it for a while. Anyway, let's round off then, because I've been waffling on for long enough. Let's have a look at some of the other big boys in the set. I'm not going to go through all of Sword and Shield this week. We're just going to go through the main ones, because over the last couple of weeks I did a bit more of a detailed analysis, and I talked more about some of the specialty sets like Crown Zenith, etc. Let's have a look at Astral Radiance then. Let's have a look at last sales data. Again, TCG play, you need to get your act together. Like, this 134 just messes up your averages, and it's, yeah, look, it's loose booster packs. Like, loose booster packs is not a booster box, okay? Like, okay, last sales 172, 172, 172, 160, 170, basically 170. Let's have a look at what it was averaging around about last week. 160, so around about a $4 rise. Again, nothing amazing, but a $4 rise on a booster box that is only 160. Look, let's have a look. Look, $4, 160. Let's just work out the percentage change of what that would be. 2.5% over 7 days. I'm not saying the booster box went up that much, because we're just looking at averages, and some of them are skewed by like not proper sales data. But I'm just making you guys aware that, like, you know, $4 doesn't seem like a lot, but it can be when the price of the whole product is only 165, and you need to bear that in mind, okay? It's very easy to look at things like Evolving Skies that's at 600 a box, say, for example, okay? For you to double your money, that Evolving Skies needs to gain another $600 in price. But for you to double your money, the same amount of money on Astral Radiance booster boxes, it only needs to go up another $160. Okay, something you need to bear in mind with investments. It's not always about being into the hottest set. Sometimes it's about getting into the sets that are a good deal. And I still recommend you buy into solid sets though. Just, it's not always about going for the hot set. Astral Radiance, cheapest you can get in the UK right now, £125 below retail. Look, people are dumping Astral Radiance after it's basically gone out of reprint window for below retail. Absolutely insane. People are sleeping on Astral Radiance. I think it's a really good set. Some people don't. I think it's got quite a good reputation, personally. I know some people don't like it, but I think there are other sets I can think of in Sword and Shield that are much less popular than Astral Radiance, that are going for a lot more than £125. So sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you got to weigh like what other sets are going for and like their popularity compared, to get a real good picture on whether you want to make a play on it or not. Let's have a look. So they're actually selling at the moment for, last sale is $135. It's a little bit over retail. So the fact that you can pick it up for under retail at the moment, and quite a few of them, this guy is basically selling a case of them. I had a look on the last solds as well. So he's got 3 for $130. So it looks like, yeah, he's just dumped a sealed case for below retail. And then I looked at solds as well, and he's sold some for that as well. Let's have a look through some of the other solds. Here's the same seller, look, $130. There's one of them sold. Here's our guy Max, who's always selling for the cheapest price, 140. Here's one that went for 131, but it looks a bit janky. Yeah, Astral Radiance for below retail is a decent play, I think. Let's have a look at Chilling Reign then. Chilling Reign is one of my favourite sets from Sword and Shield. I think it's highly underrated, and yeah, it's done quite well. It's had a real good sort of like climb up in price. Let's just have a real good zoom out. So let's zoom out. Over the last year, like if you'd have bought in around about here, December sort of time last year, anytime, basically, if you'd have bought in any time around in 2023, you've had a really good year on Chilling Reign, because you could pick it up for retail around about that point, and yeah, it's had a really, really good climb up. Not much price movement over the last week though. I think it's at a fair price, that's why. It's at what, $220 in the US, and around about £200 here in the UK. I think that's a fair price for Chilling Reign at the moment. Again, I don't think it's ever really going to get any cheaper, but I don't see it like skyrocketing up in price like really quickly. I think you'll have an opportunity to buy in for around about £200 to £230 any time between now and probably like January of next year. I don't see it going much over £230 before 2025. And then I think, so here we go guys, here's the predictions coming in. I think 2025 is going to be an insane year for Sword and Shield. I think we're going to look back at videos like this, and I will. At the end of 2025, I'll look back at videos like this. We'll do it as a little bit of a fun exercise to see how good our predictions were. I think we'll look at stuff like Astral Radiance for 130 and just kick ourselves for not buying into it. And like, the thing is, everyone's like so focused around like, or what Evolving Skies is doing, what Alt Arts are doing. People are just sleeping on this. Like, there's 130 for Astral Radiance is insane, and you can't even get Silver Tempest for 130. I don't think. I think the cheapest Silver Tempest was what, like 135 or something like that. I just think it's ludicrous. I think it's a really good buy. I think it's going to do really, really well long term. And like I said, if you look back in a year's time, 2 years time, 3 years time, I think you're going to kick yourself for not buying in at this price, because no one's looking at it. No one's looking at Astral Radiance at the moment. It's just going under the radar. Look at these last sold, 125 or 129 including postage. Another one, 129, 140, 131. This is below retail on a good set that's like out of reprint window. Like, it's just a no-brainer to me. Let's have a look. Let's finish off with the meme set. This is a little bit of fun we have on the channel. If you're new to the channel, we have a look at Darkness Ablaze, because Darkness Ablaze is touted as one of the worst Sword and Shield sets. I don't think it's the worst. I think not Brilliant Stars. I think Battle Stars is the worst set by a long shot. I quite like Darkness Ablaze, but as a kind of fun activity on the channel, I'm buying quite heavy into it. I don't recommend you do. We're just tracking it because it's one of those sets that where it's not popular, the price just goes all over the place, because there's heavy supply but there's not demand for it. It's basically out of reprint window, so some weeks you can get it for below retail, some weeks it goes for well over retail. I've seen it go for £170. We've seen it sell for £120 the week after. So we're just tracking it for a bit of fun on the channel. I don't recommend you invest into it. Like I said, there just isn't the demand for it, so it makes it very challenging to sell it for a profit. But cheapest you can get right now is 154, so it's really creeped up over the last couple of weeks. But then look at the last sold. Last sold is exactly what I'm talking about. Sold yesterday for under retail. It was best offer accepted at 134. This person was desperate, obviously dumped it below retail. Really not many of them sell that often as well. At 155 best offer accepted. I buy into them around about the 130 mark, just because that's below retail. Like, I don't think I'm really gonna do bad with it. I just think that your money is better elsewhere, in safer investments, in sets that are a little bit more higher demand. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Let's have a quick roundup of what's going on. We've got the crazy weird digital booster packs coming out on the new Pokemon Pocket that's going to release sometime next year. We've got Shrouded Fable booster bundles coming out in 3 weeks time. In 4 weeks time we're getting a full mainline set of Stellar Crown. We'll be keeping an eye on all of that. We'll probably have a look at what the singles prices are doing. If you're in the UK, probably best deal is Fusion Strike still at the moment. If you want to buy in cheaper though, there's the sleeved booster box, sleeved booster packs. If you're in the US, I don't think Silver Tempest is a bad buy for you at the moment, but I would I'd be keeping an eye on Ultra Modern if I was in the US, if I were you, to be honest. I think that we're entering a new era of Pokemon investing, especially where you can pick up sets before they come out on pre-release for like 20-30% below retail. I don't think they're ever going to get cheaper than that. Like, yeah, you might have to sit on it for a year or two until you see the gains that you really want to see, like your 60-70% profit, but hey, what do I know? I'm just a sealed investor that's been doing this for 7-8 years. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe down below to never miss an opportunity. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.